Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm going to do my presentation in English, but today we will be talking about social media for HIV service demand generation. As Karen mentioned during the session, we'll be looking at some global trends to set the context. Siguiente diapositivo, por favor. We'll be looking at the context, a technical summary of the social media for HIV and demand generation and the tools that are available to you. And then we'll be switching over to 3 different case studies about how different countries in Latin America, the Caribbean, and in Africa and Southeast Asia have used these different approaches for their programming. As Karen said, we will then finish the session with a discussion where I ask for you to think about any questions you have, but also reflect on how some of these approaches may be used in your future programming. Siguiente. So we'll begin by looking at trends in access and social media use worldwide. And basically, we're really talking now much more about social media because now more than ever, people are still becoming increasingly connected. And while gaps still do exist, social media use in particular is increasing annually. Next. Here we have some global mobile, internet, and social media trends. And these are produced by a group that looks and does surveys of social media use, internet use, mobile phone use globally every year. And here we see that 68% of mobile phone use globally, people have access and are using mobile phones. So this is a 3% increase from 2022. So people are more and more starting to use their mobile phones and starting to have access to the networks required. Social media use globally is close to 60%. Again, that's reflecting a 3% increase since last year. And we're seeing that more and more people are engaging with the use of internet and using apps. And on average, people are spending about 6 hours a day on the internet. And this is for users aged 16 to 64. There was also a large study that was done in 2022, and the most popular reasons for people using the internet was to find information, with about over half of those respondents saying that the most popular reason was in researching health issues and healthcare products. So this really gives us an opportunity to leverage these technologies to give people information about services available to them in their community, and to also address that desire and that interest in people using the internet and social media to find out more information about what is available to them. We do still see some coverage gaps, and these are particularly for people that are living in rural areas. But again, this is continuing to decrease as teleconnectivity increases across the world. And gender and rural urban gaps do persist, but these vary by region. Next slide, please. Here we have some specific information for the LAC region, and you can see the percentage of populations that have access compared to the total population to social media use. And we see in particular, one more click, please. We see in particular that the use in Latin America and the Caribbean is particularly high compared to other regions in the world. Next slide, please. One of the interesting things, and you can click again, please, about the social media use in Latin America and the Caribbean is that the gender balance in the region is actually tilted towards more women and females engaging in social media use, which isn't something that we see across other regions. So there's a real opportunity here to also engage and reach women in the programming. Next, please. And one more. Okay. Here we can also see that globally, 20 to 29-year-olds are the most common social media users, and the age range of 13 to 40-year-olds make up 30% of male social media users and 30% of female social users. Social media has the potential to capture and engage younger, more tech-savvy clients who may have limited exposure to the more traditional programming approaches. And so they might actually be in a well-placed to benefit from prevention and early treatment. Before I pass it on to my next colleague, I just wanted to emphasize that most people in Latin America and the Caribbean countries are connected and are using social media. The virtual channels are now an essential modality to reach and engage this ever-growing population in HIV services. So there's a lot of potential based on the data for us to use these different approaches to better reach people and provide services that meet their needs. With that, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Ben Eveslage, for a technical overview. Ben, over to you. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Shanti. So in the next few slides, I will provide a technical overview that will help set the context of social media demand generation within a broader telehealth framework. And we didn't do full introductions for each of us, but it's a small group here. So I'll just go ahead. My name is Ben Eveslage. I work with FHI 360. I'm based in Mexico City, and I'm really happy to be here. If you have any questions about these approaches, add them to the chat, and we also have a discussion at the end. So telehealth means the delivery and facilitation of health and health-related services, including medical care, provider and patient education, health information services, and self-care via telecommunications and digital communication technologies. So let's get started and let's go to the next slide. So first, I would like to provide some context for social media demand generation. Here, I will present a more comprehensive framework for the use of virtual and telehealth approaches across the client care continuum. The series of steps you see here was based on the HIV services cascade. However, they were adapted to be more broadly useful across other health areas. The process begins on the left-hand side, where health service delivery programs plan their virtual interventions. They then continue to use approaches to reach their target audiences online, then refer those clients for health services, deliver those services, and then re-engage those clients over time. This process continuously uses data from each step to monitor outcomes of the interventions and to improve program performance. If you can click once on the slide, there's an animation. So here are some categories of the types of virtual approaches and tools you can use across this framework. You can also see in green a category of self-care, autocuidado, which means that clients can use digital technology themselves to find, access, and stay engaged in health services. If you click once more on the slide, here are some major types of virtual interventions that you can use across each step of the client care continuum. You can see three major items appearing under the reach category. We will review those approaches in more detail in this webinar. And click one more final time. And finally, here are a few more specific virtual approaches related to the major interventions I just described. So while we focus on social media demand generation in this webinar, don't forget that your clients' reach on social media may want to continue using virtual platforms to find, access, and stay engaged in health services. So you can always reference this slide to learn more about other types of interventions that you can introduce to create a more comprehensive virtual pathway for clients to engage in your health services. All right, next slide. HIV outreach and demand generation approaches have evolved over the years. This figure demonstrates various generations of outreach, starting with in-person and hotspot-based outreach at the bottom and continuing through online peer outreach in the middle and broad online advertising and marketing at the top. As you progress up this figure, the approaches become broader and programs may need to focus on how to convert clients from online outreach to offline uptake of HIV services. We have some notes on this slide that describes these approaches in more detail. But for now, let's go to the next slide. In this webinar, we will focus on three main categories of social media demand generation. I discussed these on the previous slide as generations of outreach, but here we're just presenting three unique technical categories. They include social network outreach. This is organic social media content creation and management and use of outreach staff to push content through their online social networks. And this can include client referrals. The second is social influencer outreach. This is engagement of popular people on social media who have reach and influence among your target audience, and they can help you build trust with those audiences and generate demand for services. The third category is social profile outreach. This involves the use of online ad managers to target and deliver content on websites or applications that are used by your target audience. This can include social media, dating apps, and search ads. These above approaches are quite relevant to a wide range of online platforms. However, in this presentation, we will focus mainly on social media, which can include the traditional apps like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, but also can include messenger applications like WhatsApp, Telegram, and Viber. We will not be discussing web ads or search engine ads or ads on dating apps or use of voice calling or SMS in much detail. Next slide. A very important component of social media demand generation is monitoring your outputs and your outcomes. This has been a very challenging area for HIV programs globally, but there are many solutions available that can help you simplify how you measure impact to understand your results and use that data to improve your approaches. For social network outreach, when staff are managing organic social media promotions or implementing online individual outreach with clients, you can track a couple of things like the number of unique posts that are made on social media or the unique chats that are initiated with clients. Usually these things could be tracked on an Excel document. Sometimes this takes quite a bit of time to report and track. Another outcome metric that you can track for social network outreach is the number of followers that you have on your organization's official social media pages. If you're doing very good organic promotions and social network outreach, then you will increase your number of followers on your page. And that is an easier metric to track. You can simply look at your page and look at the number of followers and see how it changes over time. For social influencer outreach, it can be challenging to monitor the outputs, like the number of posts made and the number of clients that are reached with those posts. And that's because sometimes it requires engaging with the influencer themselves to share this data from their account to you as the program. For social profile outreach, this again means online advertising, paid online advertising. So paid ads on social media platforms have sophisticated analytics to report the reach of ads and the engagement and conversion rate from those ads. So those can all be monitored quite easily. Across all of these outreach methods, many HIV programs have found it difficult to track outcomes of social media demand generation because it can be difficult or time-consuming to monitor and report some of these indicators I showed above. In our programs, we simplified this and we focused on just reporting the outcomes, like number of clients who land on a website to book their appointment, number of appointments booked, number of appointments for health services when the client arrived for their appointment. Historically, Tracking these outcomes of social media promotions has been quite difficult. However, online appointment booking applications and websites can make this a lot easier. So let me explain a little bit more about these online appointment booking applications and how you can use them. Next slide. So here is an example of an online appointment booking application. It's called the Online Reservation and Case Management App. For short, it's called Aura. It's a web app that clients can use themselves via a web browser on their smartphone. They simply go to quickres.org or whatever the name of the website it is. And they can find health providers and book appointments on that site. Aura can help HIV programs track results of their online demand generation toward some key results. So how does this work? On Aura, you can create a unique link with a tracking code that is embedded. And this link can be used in each of your online promotions. And then Aura will store that code within the resulting reservation made on the website. Therefore, you can then segment your web traffic, your appointments, successful appointments, and even services delivered by each of the original online demand generation approaches you used. Next slide. I will not review this slide in detail. However, you can please come back here after the webinar to this slide to learn more about the available functions on Aura that can support each stage of the client care continuum, including assessing health needs, booking health services, managing service delivery, following up with clients, and data use. Next slide. Also, I will not review this slide in detail, but you can come back here after the webinar to learn more about where Aura is used globally and learn about some examples of how Aura is used in this text box on the right-hand side. I want to note that Aura has been deployed in around 32 countries, including some countries where the Ministry of Health or a local community organization actually owns and manages the app themselves. In some other cases, HIV programs have joined the use of a common shared Aura application called QuickRes. And because they share the use of the same platform, they're able to roll out faster and at a lower cost. And we'll go to the next slide. So lastly, let me share a couple examples of resources. They're in English, apologies. But you can review these or even translate them to learn more about these telehealth approaches. You can contact us at goingonline@fhi360.org. We are happy to help you if you want to consider scaling or introducing some of these approaches. And let me hand it over to Danny to introduce some case studies. Next slide.
Hi, Ed. Thank you, Ben. Yes, as Ben introduced, my name is Danny Simmons. I'm a technical advisor for telehealth. One of my specializations are demand generation, and I have been working in the Caribbean region for quite some time. I also live in Jamaica. I'm happy to be sharing with you today about a case study linked to social network outreach in Jamaica. I credit most of what I will share to the incredible local partners with whom we have maintained a relationship over the years. As described earlier by Ben, social network outreach presents a peer-led model for online outreach. And I'm going to be sharing a case study focused on the work done by one of our partners called Children First through their program called iFlex. Next slide, please. There are many partners we work with, but iFlex is one with an incredible story that we are very happy to share with you. iFlex is a virtual health campaign designed to provide men with crucial health information, services, and support to encourage better health-seeking behaviors. It was established in 2018 by the Children First Agency, was supported by USAID through FHI's 360 Linkages project. The campaign offers HIV and syphilis testing services to men, which are promoted via peer-led online outreach session, ensuring that vital health resources are easily accessible and widely available in Jamaica. Next slide, please. Trained online outreach officers utilize dating apps and social media sites to identify potential clients, engage with them in prevention messaging, and support their access to necessary services. This outreach can be conducted through one-on-one direct engagements, like starting a chat or phone call, or by maintaining a social media presence, which is going online daily and sharing content on their individual social media pages, with the hopes that clients will see this information and reach out to them, requesting more information and ultimately being linked to services. Next slide, please. You heard Ben speak a little about our solution that is called Aura, which is the online reservation app. In Jamaica, there is a version of Aura that is deployed known as My Health JA. The unique case of My Health JA is that there are several partners that use My Health JA and maintain their own unique presence and branding. iFlex, which this case study is focused on, also uses My Health JA. My Health JA allows outreach workers to conduct online outreach and support them in multiple ways. It enables them to support clients to book appointments for HIV testing, streamline follow-ups, referrals, and keep track of their clients who need to book appointments for repeat services in the future. So there is a client-facing component that Ben described earlier on that allows clients to take these types of actions on their own, but there are functionalities on the flip side, on the back end of this system, that allows outreach workers to have a very comprehensive overview of the many different appointments scheduled by their clients, follow up with them and reschedule where necessary, and just provide support as they access these services. Next slide, please. I spoke earlier to one-on-one direct engagement as one approach to social network outreach, which is going on dating apps, social media, and starting conversation with people in various groups, pages, dating apps, and so on. But there's also this other perspective, which is maintaining a organic social media presence. And my colleague Fato will speak later on about social media advertising, but I wanted to bring into focus here how social media, when used in its simplest way, can serve demand generation, meaning there's no paid advertising, just regular updating of content and engagement. Outreach workers employ organic content to foster engagement on their social media pages, and this can be their individual profiles or their organization pages. The content is developed collaboratively by iFlex outreach workers. They convene weekly meetings to strategize and create visually appealing posts using user-friendly tools like Canva. I'm not sure how many persons are familiar with Canva, but it's a platform that allows you to put content together. Next slide, please. So in terms of results, here are some results I would like to review with you from iFlex's social network outreach approach. 1 in 5 clients who were reached between October 2021 and September 2022 came into the facility from online and were tested for HIV and syphilis. And online outreach or social network outreach that we're talking about here contributed to 57% of the services that were accessed within the overall organization between February and September of 2022. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go through some key considerations with you. When conducting social network outreach, it's important to identify key social media influencers, pages, and groups that can be targeted for message distribution and resource sharing. We have put this together in a combined approach called social media mapping, and it allows the workers to find the right people with the right messages and target them at the right time. There's also online surveys and interviews that can be conducted to understand the best platforms for increasing digital interest and the most effective way to offer support. We also encourage that we'll have to strategically schedule staff time, particularly for those supporting in-person outreach as well. So you'll find that some programs may have resources to have staff dedicated to online outreach, like iFlex, and some may not. They may use peer outreach workers who are already doing traditional forms of outreach and may need to share split time with this work. We also encourage that you build staff capacity in conversational techniques that encourages clients to take action. So it's all about moving from that online space into the services that are available at the facility or clinic level. Next slide, please. iFlex has taught us that by adopting Aura, it enables outreach staff to manage appointments, referrals for clients, and referrals for clients reached online. It's also important to identify and prepare for promotion of specific services that can be offered online, considering those that can be delivered virtually, in-home, or expedited in person. And by this, I mean, your program doesn't necessarily have to start off with taking all services or promoting all services online, but you can think carefully about those services that you can offer virtually, or may have some options for services to be delivered at home, and clients would engage with outreach staff to book for those appointments or services. So that's pretty much the experience we've had with iFlex in Jamaica. And these considerations that we've outlined here come from their unique experience in the Caribbean reaching men. Next slide, please. I'm going to now be sharing about social influencer outreach with you, particularly focusing on case examples in Guyana and Indonesia. Ben, my colleague who spoke just before me, would have described this approach in more details, but social influencer outreach, just a refresher, is one approach that leverages people who have an influence online to help distribute your message online. Next slide, please. I'm going to start with the experience we've had in Guyana. In 2021, FHI 360 collaborated with the Guyana-based RTs in direct support. We call them RTs. So going forward, you'll probably just hear me say RTs. And we worked with them to involve social influencers in their program. Local comedians with extensive followings were enlisted to integrate health messaging into their content, focusing on quick res. Earlier, Ben spoke to quick res, which is just like My Health JA that's used by iFlex, but it's a global deployment used by several countries, and Guyana is one of those countries. Following 1 month of engagement, traffic to Guyana's quick res site surged by 40%. So just a month after engaging influencers, who are these people with a large following and influence online, the amount of people going to the site to make reservations for appointments increased by 40% after a month. RTs employed a straightforward contract, compensating influencers based on the number of program and quick res platform mentions. So basically, at the start of the contract, RTs and the influencers agreed that there would be a payment based on a certain number of mentions in their online comedic shows or their TikTok videos or whatever the influencers did. Additionally, influencers would share brief explanatory videos on social media detailing available services and access and how people can access these services. And this was important because the content was delivered in a very creative and comedic way. So it was very important that these influencers who have agreed to do this use their own platforms like TikTok and Instagram to have a follow-up conversation on why the topic they explored in a comedic way is important, and more detailed steps for how people can get the support they need. Next slide, please. I inserted this slide here just because I think it was important in telling artists' story to show that they had a diversification of approaches in Guyana. So we just spoke about iFlex, who are focused on social network outreach, but in Guyana, artists in direct support also use social influencer outreach and social network outreach. And I have three images here. The first image, which is on the left of your screen, is a social influencer, Noreen, who is talking about QuickRes on her TikTok profile. Noreen is a comedian, so she would have been in a skit where QuickRes or artists in direct support was mentioned. And just after that show, she went on her TikTok to provide some clarifying details about QuickRes and how people can access services. We see we're about just over 500 people engaged with that one post. And there are several others like that from Guyana. And in Guyana, artists also use QuickRes. So it's not just about getting the word out, but also just making sure people have options to take action. And QuickRes is that one platform that would allow people, having received the information they need, to book service or reach out to outreach staff to get more support. And the third picture, which is on the far right, are just some outreach workers who are using QuickRes also in Guyana as part of their social network outreach strategy. Next slide, please. Now, in Guyana, those influencers were not as large, did not have as a large a following as the influencers that influencer I'm about to share about in Indonesia. In 2018, FHI 360 initiated a widespread social media demand generation campaign in Jakarta, and it was called Update Status. Update Status featured influencer promotions, and one such influencer was Stacia, a transgender makeup artist and social media influencer with a following of 166,000 people. A creative agency was engaged to produce a series of lighthearted short videos where Stacia demystified the clinic experience and just, demonstrated to her following how easy and comfortable the clinic experience is. These videos were shared by Stacia with her followers and were further amplified by FHI 360 through social media ads targeting her followers and other potential clients. The goal of these ads was to encourage clients to click and book appointments online. And Tato, my colleague coming right after me, will speak to that. And the video you've been seeing on loop is a video of Stacia, who is the influencer that's being focused on in this example. Next slide, please. Now, just to help us to tell a better story, we looked at the number of HIV positive cases detected across all clinics in Jakarta, and we found a 23% increase at the same time as the program launch of the influencer promotions. You can see this here in the big spike on the graph. However, the 9 clinics receiving appointments from Update Status found a 58% increase in HIV case finding. And of course, when you get the slides, you will have a chance to look more closely at this data. Next slide, please. Now, for some key considerations as it relates to social influencer outreach, And of course, these are built on the lessons we've learned implementing in Guyana, Indonesia, and in other regions. Offer clients a simple way to act. Example, an online booking platform like QuickRes. So as influencers engage with their audience and share about services, they can also share a way for clients to take action by clicking a link, booking a service, or requesting to speak to someone who can offer virtual support. Provide influencers with unique links to share with their followers to book appointments, helping them to track performance and outcomes. And that's one of the features of QuickRes or Aura, the app that was developed by FHI 360. You are able to generate unique links for outreach workers or social influencers for different targeted ads or campaigns, and you're able to look at the results in a stratified way to see where the demand is coming from. So in the case of iFlex that I spoke to earlier, if there's a team of 3 outreach workers, they would each have their individual links. And if in Guyana we share to 4 influencers, they would each have their individual links. And on the back end, program staff would be able to see where the traffic is coming from and provide support accordingly. We also encourage that you consider macro influencers for broader reach or trust, general reach of the audience. And macro influencers are those people with a large amount of following, like Stasia. And then there are nano influencers for targeted reach and higher conversion. So the nano influencers, they don't have as large a reach as the macro influencers, but people who follow them usually share their interests. And so it's easier for them to reach a more targeted group of people who would likely take greater action and come in for services. Extend influencer content into social media ads. And I'll leave Tato, my colleague, to speak to some of that. And we also encourage simplifying influencer contracting and payments, and consider pro bono engagements too. And pro bono engagements are when you involve engaging social media influencers and they are not charging a fee. And this can include bringing in celebrities in the country or entertainers in the country, members of government, to speak on some of these topics, to share content once in a while, and that will also boost your engagement online and could result in greater uptake of services. And finally, remain engaged with influencers to provide accurate HIV messages and to address questions from followers. That's very critical. And that's it for me. Thank you. I turn over to my colleague, Tato, who will be speaking on managing Facebook ads.
Great. Thank you very much, Danny. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. My name is Tato Kasongo, and I am a telehealth consultant here with the FHI 360 team. I'm going to take you just through a short presentation on managing Facebook ads and how Facebook ads can be used to support your demand creation efforts. Now, paid ads are an exciting tool for HIV programs. They can help you expand your reach online, promote your services, target specific audiences with important information, as well as increase the recognition and credibility of your brand and organization. Now, we can use paid ads on social media and other channels such as Google search or putting ads directly on popular websites. But for the purpose of this presentation, I'll focus on Facebook. Now, next slide, please. Facebook Ads Manager is the section of Facebook that is used by organizations such as yourselves and businesses to manage their promotional activities on Facebook platforms. This could include Facebook in general, or Facebook Messenger, Instagram, and possibly WhatsApp soon. As a platform, Facebook Ads Manager allows us to manage our entire campaign pipeline within Facebook Ads Manager. It provides precise audience targeting tools where you can create campaigns and target audiences based on age, gender, and interests. It also has customizable features where you can choose the time when your ads are running, you can choose the devices that your ads run on, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. Now, the Facebook Ads Manager offers about a 3-step campaign management solution. The first step is just to define your campaign objective. Are you trying to reach a lot of people, or are you trying to drive traffic to, say, an online scheduling tool such as the one that we've been talking about, Aura or QuickRes? We then have a second step, which helps you break down the overall campaign objective into ad sets. Now, these ad sets are basically subsets of your overall campaign, where you can configure the target audience of that campaign. You can separate your campaign into different budgets and schedule each segment of the campaign to reach different types of audiences. This allows you to be more precise in your targeting, allows you to allocate your resources more effectively in order to reach your campaign objectives. And finally, the third step is designing the ads themselves, which falls in the ad creative section. This is where you choose the type of format that your ads will take. You choose the type of copy or the wording on your adverts, as well as where your adverts will be shown. Will they be shown in the newsfeed? Will they be shown next to articles? Will they be shown on the Messenger platform? And ad sets can also be enhanced by closely monitoring performance metrics. And Facebook Ads Manager provides a dashboard where you can view all the metrics of how your ads are performing and optimize them as you go. Next slide, please. Just next slide again. Sorry. Great. So a typical example of what I just described would be where an HIV program wants to increase the number of MSM accessing HIV self-testing. In this program, the overall campaign in this section would basically be to increase traffic to, say, an online booking app such as QuickRes. Next slide. You would then separate this campaign into 2 ad sets. One would be targeted for young MSM aged between 18 and 35. The other one would be targeting older MSM. Next section. Then by separating the campaign into 2 ad sets, we can then create adverts that will appeal to section 1 of our ad set, which would be young MSM. This will affect the types of images that we use and the type of copy that we write. And we would be able to also separate this for the second ad set, which is an older audience of 36 plus. And then this would basically then enable us to have a clear structure of how these ads are going to help us reach the overall campaign objective. Next slide, please. This is just a visual representation of what the campaign section looks like on Ads Manager. Next slide, please. The ad set section looks a little bit like this as well. This is where you define your audience, you choose the types of interests that they associate with, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. Next slide again. And then the ad section is where we would actually upload the type of content that we need to run, where we would write the copy that will be shown to our audience when they see the ads, and all the other details pertaining to each of the ad sets that we've created. Next slide, please. Next slide again. So the structure that I just talked about is exactly what we have used to support one of FHI 360's partners in South Africa called Engage Men's Health. Engage Men's Health runs a men's-only clinic in Johannesburg, and they had a campaign objective of promoting HIV testing services in that facility, access to PrEP, as well as the fact that the facilities are safe and discreet for the audience in the Johannesburg area. The main call to action for the campaign was to have people see the adverts and inquire directly with Engage Men's Health, either to inquire on the services offered, the operational times, or to make a booking to access some services. Our target audience was men aged between 18 and 35 in the Johannesburg area, and we followed that 3-step format to creating the overall campaign plan and organizing the campaign within Ads Manager. Next slide, please. We ran adverts using this campaign setup for about 3 months. And within those 3 months, the content from this campaign was seen more than 31 million times and reached at least 3 million unique people within our target area. The EMA, the Engagements Health team, also got more than 10,000 direct inquiries about the facility and about the services through the WhatsApp line that they use to interact with clients. Next slide, please. In general, I think it's important for organizations that want to use Facebook ads to supercharge their programs to utilize some pre-campaign surveys. These surveys would allow us to gain further insight into the types of audience that we want to reach and make it a little bit easier for us to find and fine-tune our targeting within Facebook Ads Manager to find the right audience. If you can, engaging a creative agency will also be very useful because that will allow you to have the most optimal type of artwork that can help you reach your target audience. Scheduling some time away for staff, dedicated staff that can help update the schedules and monitor the outcomes of the ads is definitely a must do. It's also important to maintain a social media presence organically so that your brand continues to maintain its relevance even during times when you're not running campaigns or when you're not running paid ads. Next slide, please. It's also important to set aside a bit of a budget to run these adverts. Anywhere between $100 to $500 would suffice depending on the objective, as well as the amount of people that you want your campaign to reach. Empowering and training outreach staff to respond to queries is also important, as they may come across people on the ground that have seen campaign content online, and they should be in a position to be able to answer questions where necessary. It would also be advisable to form a community advisory group that can help to continually refresh and inform the campaign strategy, because Facebook Ads Manager equips us with metrics that we can use to continue to improve the performance of the campaign over time. So I think that was all for my section on Facebook Ads Manager, and I think we may proceed to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Well, muchas gracias a los tres panelistas, gracias Chanti, Dani, Tato y Ben. Yo sé que ha sido mucha información sobre redes sociales, tal vez es un tema nuevo que muchas organizaciones están empezando a implementar, es algo que apenas está empezando a trabajar en algunos países sobre los servicios de salud y las redes sociales. Y tenemos unos 10 minutos para hacer preguntas, algunos comentarios, unas respuestas. En el chat me enviaron por privado 2 preguntas, pero quisiera también darle el espacio a cualquiera que quisiera abrir su micrófono o levantar la manito para hacer una pregunta a Chanti, Ben, Dani o Tato. Es micrófono abierto. Bien, entonces, mientras piensen alguna pregunta, algún comentario, yo voy a leer la pregunta que me pasaron por el chat. Es a Ben. A Ben, una persona tiene una pregunta acerca de esta plataforma Ora o QuickPress. Más que todo, como las organizaciones trabajan mucho con personas con VIH, ¿cómo se puede asegurar la confidencialidad de las clientes que hacen algunas citas o que quieren hacerse, o personas que quieren hacerse pruebas de VIH?
Hi, Karen, I can answer that question. Sure, yes. Client confidentiality is almost, I think, the most important factor when supporting clients on a digital platform. So on Aura and QuickRes, the items that are collected that are sensitive might be the client's name and the client's phone number. These information are stored as a encrypted code on the system so that when you do your data analysis, you don't see the phone numbers. However, when an individual case manager, service provider, or outreach worker needs to contact the client, they can simply take their mouse or their finger, they click on the phone number, and the system will decrypt that individual phone number and present it so it can be used. That is the process for maintaining some client confidentiality. We also have many functions on the system and features that that keep the data secure. And we also limit the amount of client identifying information that is collected. We can share more on that, and we have some slides that we can include about data security.
Gracias, Ben. Y te voy a mantener un rato aquí también porque hay dos preguntas sobre hora. Susi pregunta de que cuál es el porcentaje de reedición de las personas que reservan sus citas por la app Hora y si efectivamente llegan al servicio desde la app. Y la otra pregunta es de Polo, es si está disponible en Centroamérica.
Great questions. First question, globally, we track the number of appointments booked and the number of successful appointments. The successful appointments can be any appointment when the client is meeting with the provider of the services. It could be an in-person meeting, it can be a virtual consultation, or it can be that they met with someone who delivered the service to their door. And on average, globally, around 60% of clients who book online successfully arrive for their appointment. And that varies by country. And it also depends on whether that program has staff that views the appointments and then calls clients when they missed an appointment to help them reschedule. If they have that approach of calling missed appointments and rescheduling, the arrival rate is higher. And is QuickRes and Aura available in Central America? QuickRes is a global application. It can be used by any country. It takes very little time to add a new partner or a new program in Central America. Also, we can translate the application for Spanish in simply one day. So the process is very short, and it's already available for programs to use in Central America. But there are a few steps to bringing a program in Central America onto this system. You need to create users, create service providers, other instructions, and do some training.
Gracias, Ben. También hay en el chat cómo se puede empezar con Hora. Es un enlace que se pueda descargar. ¿Cómo pueden empezar las organizaciones a empezar a usar Hora?
Yeah. Great question. So Aura is a software, and it needs to, a program can contact us directly to brainstorm how they want to use it and make sure that it will meet their needs, and we can tailor it to your needs as well. There's no licensing cost. You're not paying a fee to use the application. Because we are a nonprofit, all we do is if we manage the application like QuickRes, then we have to divide the costs of the maintenance by all the countries that use it. So typically, it involves a technical assistance contract with FHI to support the partner or the organization to use the application, to develop the training, to tailor it to your needs. But you're not paying like a subscription fee. You're just paying for any time you might need for capacity development on the tool. And then you can use the tool on your own. You can manage the use of it on your own. Karen, I also have to go. I have a meeting right now, but my colleagues Danny and Tato can also address many of these questions and any of the other questions.
Bueno, muchas gracias por compartirnos cómo usar Aura y QuickBooks Pen y gracias por sumarte al webinario. Vi que Chanti puso un contacto sobre preguntas específicas de Aura QuickBooks que se pueden mandar un correo a coinonline@fhi360.org si tienen nuevas preguntas de Aura. Yo sé que ya estamos al tiempo, pero quisiera hacer una pregunta más sobre los Facebook Ads, y eso se la quiero decir a Tato, de que preguntan sobre algunas buenas prácticas que se podrían recomendar para lograr la segmentación, ya sea, y creo que quiere decir segmentación como alcanzar el objetivo, alcanzar la población que se quiere alcanzar, y para llegar a la población meta. Algunas buenas prácticas para empezar a llegar a la población meta. Tato?
Yes, I'm still here. That's an excellent question. I think, you know, one of the things that I think I also mentioned would be just before really getting into the campaign, trying to gain a collective understanding of your audience within the organization. What do we think our audience likes? What are they interested in? And online, what type of traits would they exhibit, right? So for instance, if I can give an example from our campaign in South Africa, we were targeting MSM in South Africa. And one of the things that we did was we just came up with a list of the type of content that we thought our audience would engage with online. And these could be certain types of reality shows. This could be certain types of pages. And these could be certain types of hobbies. And Facebook Ads Manager allows you to list those types of things. So you could target people based on the types of pages that you think they would follow. So if you thought that MSM might be interested in a particular magazine, you could target people based on whether they like that magazine on Facebook or not. And if you thought that they might have certain hobbies, for say clubbing, for instance, or they might be interested in tennis or badminton, for instance, these are just examples, then you can use those interests and list them on Facebook Ads Manager. And one of the most interesting features of Ads Manager is that based on the interests that you list, Facebook will give you an estimation of how many people you can reach online in your area. So if you decide that you want to target a certain population in, say, Rio de Janeiro, for instance, and you list those interests, Facebook will let you know that, oh, there's 2 million people within Rio that have this type of interest. That then allows you to know how much of an audience is available for you to reach. And it allows your ads to be more targeted to the population that you really want to reach. But I think it even gets better over time, because as we develop a deeper understanding of our audiences, we're able to understand a lot further what they may or may not be interested in, which makes it easier for us to reach them online.
Muchas gracias, Tato, y espero que esa respuesta haya aclarado un poco la duda sobre cómo manejar los ads en Facebook. Yo sé que estamos pasados 3 minutos, pero me llegó otra pregunta en el chat al privado que sí quiero hablar un poco, y no me voy a tomar mucho. Es para Dani, sobre si puede compartir alguna de las estrategias que usaron para hacer que los influencers estén interesados en trabajar con organizaciones de sociedad civil, especialmente los influencers pro bono, porque dentro de la región, dentro de la región es muy difícil de que los influencers empiecen a trabajar pro bono en organizaciones de sociedad civil y alrededor del tema de VIH.
Thanks, Karen. That's a great questions today. So I want to share specifically about an example from Jamaica, the same iFlix program that we have worked with. You can go to their Instagram and check out their content and so on at iFlixJA. in one period in December, when there is World AIDS Day, they had a campaign called Doing It. And the aim is to get people to get tested. And so they wanted to use influencers. And just like you're saying, they didn't have the resources. So they came up with this approach where they would send out Instagram messages and emails to different influencers to say to them, it's World AIDS Day that's coming up. We want to have a massive drive to get people tested. Can you commit to sharing a few content that we will give you to share? And a couple people said they would do it. So I'm happy to point you to their Instagram to see what that was like. But one of them included the Minister of Health from Jamaica, the Honorable Christopherton, who actually went on video and promoted the campaign and wore a t-shirt that was provided by iFlex. So it doesn't have to always be entertainers and those kinds of celebrities. It can be people from within the Ministry of Health who have influence. It can be anyone virtually who has a positive and large audience. I hope I responded right.
Sí, muchas gracias, Dani. Y la verdad es que sí han habido buenas, interesantes preguntas, porque sé que es un tema muy nuevo para algunas organizaciones. Empezar a poner dentro de los presupuestos y planificación en proyectos la comunicación, no solo la comunicación de impresos, flyers, sino también meter dentro del presupuesto dinero para pagar ads, para llegar a esa audiencia que todavía no habíamos podido llegar, pero se puede con redes sociales para llamar más la atención y de que se aumente los testeos, que haya más concientización de VIH, también de que se hacen para llegar a los servicios de salud. Les quiero agradecer a todos y todas por llegar hoy a la sesión y por estarse unos minutos más. Y nosotros desde la plataforma los vamos a enviar la presentación, vamos a enviar la grabación y también vamos a enviar todos los contactos que puedan ocupar para empezar a trabajar con Oro y si tienen algunas más preguntas sobre los Ads Managers. Así que muchas gracias de nuevo y les deseo muy buena semana.
Muchas gracias. Saludos desde Costa Rica.
Saludos a Costa Rica.